Hi, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to talk about my February TBR. I actually already filmed this, but it was a hot mess because I don't know where my brain was, so I'm going to do it again. This is one of the first TBRs that I've gone into without an overarching goal to what I'm, not goal, but source for what I'm reading and where I'm going to different challenges that I'm going to complete to finish the TBR. And so there are a few different books that I picked up because there are different challenges that I'm participating in, say on Storygraph. There's a couple that Storygraph are putting on. Then there's other challenges that I've given myself, well, goals. So instead of doing it how I did before, I'm just gonna go through my books and I'm gonna attempt to categorize them. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is one of my first goals, and that was to read more nonfiction, at least 2 per month. I have 4 on this month's TBR. I'm really excited about that. And I also wanted to focus on nonfiction that was on my TBR card. Now 2 of the 4 nonfictions are from my TBR card. So that's a good sign. So first, we have the nonfiction that's been on my TBR card the longest. And this is the book, Permission to Feel. It deals with helping, so the subtitle says, unlocking the power of emotions to help our kids, ourselves, and our society thrive. It's not a secret that a lot of kids, a lot of students of mine struggled with the lockdown at the end of the 2019-2020 school year, with the isolation, with all that brought. And I had something happen to one of my students that was, it affected me deeply. I'm not going to get into that here, but I was motivated to pick up this book after that happened because I want to be able to be better equipped to help my students deal with their emotions, their very real things. But I think one of the reasons that I didn't get to this book when I purchased it, that I kept putting that off, is because that thing that happened was so impactful. And this month, I'm gonna read it. Next, I have an ARC. It's actually the first ARC that I've ever received. ARC is an advanced reader copy. It is Art of Protest, Creating, Discovering, and Activating Art for Your Revolution. Around the time that I discovered Storygraph, also discovered an app called Library Thing. It's basically where you can basically make your own library and catalog things, but they also have an early reviewers platform where you can request books. And because Library Thing is a much smaller platform than, say, Goodreads, you have more of a chance of getting the books, like I did with this one. I have no idea what to expect. It's not conventional style for a book. This is very thick board. It's like board for like a board book, but it's very hard cardboard. And on the side, it looks unfinished, but it's got the title on it. So I don't know if this is part of the design of the book or just because it's an ARC. So I'm intrigued about that. The other 2 books that I have are library books. One I am going to check out from the audiobook portion of my library through Hoopla, and that is How to Hide an Empire. And that is about American history and, well, basically how they hid their imperial ambitions. More thoughts on that when I read the book, but I'm looking forward to that one. And then the other one, it fulfilled a prompt on one of the Storygraph challenges, and that was to read from one of your most featured authors, and that is Simon Winchester, who's a historian whose books I've read several of. And so I chose the one that I found at the library, and that is Krakatoa. And it's about the explosion of the volcano. I believe it was in the very late 1800s, early 1900s. So those are my 4 nonfiction books. Next, I have some audiobooks. So some of the other books that I'm going to read by audio, aside from that one nonfiction books, is The Invisible Life of Addy Larue. That book fulfills another prompt for one of the Storygraph challenges. And that was to read a book on the Popular This Week. That's a aspect of their site that they have. And I've wanted to read that. I don't know if I'll get to it in February, only because there's a long wait on it. So we'll see. Hopefully I will get to read this in February. I also have tentatively a couple of the Harry Potter audiobooks on there. They're a feel-good read. I'm looking forward to that. The next section that I have are some e-ARCs. So e-ARCs are electronic advanced reader copies. I went down the rabbit hole of NetGalley, which is a place where you can go and request e-ARCs. And I've been approved for 8. One thing I'm really excited about is a couple of authors that I know. I've gotten e-ARCs of their books, and one of those I'm really excited about is Pam Munoz Ryan. She is the author of Esperanza Rising. I've really enjoyed her books, and the cover for this one, Solimar, it looks spectacular. I'm really excited about that one. Another one is a Gordon Corman book. The most recent one of those that I read, which was Unplugged for the Goodreads Choice Award, it didn't work. But I have read others from him that were enjoyable. I'm not going to read through the list. I will definitely be giving my thoughts on that. I want to make sure that I read them and review them in a timely fashion because that's the purpose of NetGalley. Then I have another one of my goals, which is to finish series, and I realized that some of the series that I'm in the middle of may not be completed yet, and that is true for the book that I'm picking up to move towards that goal, and that is The Bone Shard Emperor. So I believe this is supposed to be a trilogy. I read Bone Shard Daughter in December and loved it. I'm really excited to read Bone Shard Emperor. So since this is the second in the book, the third's not out, I will count this as completing a series, as in completing up to what's been published. Another book that I picked to fulfill a prompt, this was the Buzz Readathon prompt from Books and Lala. That was for February, to choose a book that had a pronoun in the title. And so I chose one of my most recent purchases, and that is They Went Left by Monica Hesse, or Hesse. I have read one of her other books, The Girl in the Blue Coat, in both English and Spanish. That is one of my favorite World War II young adult fiction books. There's a lot of them. This one takes place after the war, but the They Went Left deals with concentration camp survivors, and they're like the only ones of their families that are left. But in this book, They Went Left is those two paths. Going left for the people that went left means they didn't survive the war. So this will probably be a really powerful one. I know it's going to be good. Then the others that I have here do not fill specific prompts. Well, one of them does. It's not one that I have in physical copy. It's one at the library. And that is The Lucky Ones by Margarita Engel. I've read a lot of her books before, and I wonder if this one's going to be in verse, because a lot of the other books that I've read from her have been in verse, like The Dreamer. That one fulfilled one of the prompts for one of the Storygraph challenges to use the really cool feature that I probably will use in March's TBR. And that is you can go to your to read pile and have them do suggest, and it just picks one randomly from your big long TBR. So I'm excited about that. Oh, okay, there is one more that fulfills a prompt that I got from the library, and that is The Mysterious Howling. That was to fulfill a prompt to choose a book from your 7th most read genre, and that apparently is mystery. And so this happens to be a middle grades mystery, and I'm intrigued. I just realized that when I said The Lucky Ones, I actually meant The Lightning Dreamer. I'm looking down at my list, and I didn't write the authors. Obviously, you will have seen by the cover. Speaking of The Lucky Ones, this is what made me realize my mistake. This is the second ARC that I've received from Library Thing. This one really excites me. It's historical fiction set in the late 1960s because it mentions Robert Kennedy, and Robert Kennedy was killed in 1968. So it's before that, but I don't think too far before that. And this book feels really nice in the hand. I hope this one is good. I'm really excited about it. And then the other two books that I have on my list are Between Shades of Grey, the graphic novel, and then the illustrated Tales of Beetle the Bard. This won't take me long to read. This is the Scholastic version, I believe. I also want to get the Bloomsbury version because they have different illustrators, and I love collecting the different illustrations and seeing different artistic takes on this. Hopefully that adds up to 21 because that's the minimum that I need to get to my goal of 250 books per month. I know it's an ambitious TBR. We'll see if I can make it. Thanks so much for joining me. I'll see you in the next one.